Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're uncovering a 2,000-year-old banking secret, and honestly, it's a secret that reveals exactly why incredible material wealth, the kind that looks absolutely picture-perfect from the outside, can still leave a massive, unfillable hole in your soul. We're going to unpack the fascinating history of a city that literally had everything, yet ultimately possessed nothing of true value.
To set the stage here, I want you to imagine a city with such overwhelming, civilizational, I'm good energy that when a massive, devastating earthquake leveled them in AD 60, they completely rejected financial aid. And not just from anyone. They told the Roman Empire, the world's only superpower at the time, to keep their disaster relief money. They literally said they didn't need a single dime to rebuild their civilization.
Section 1. The untouchably rich city, the regional banking capital of the Lycus Valley.
That untouchably rich city was Laodicea. They minted their own coins and served as the financial hub for an entire region. Now, to truly understand their trap and why they're actually the only church in the biblical book of Revelation to receive absolute zero commendation, we've got to look at their portfolio. It was built on three massive industries that essentially made them the Silicon Valley of the ancient world. They weren't just participating in these markets, they were completely dominating them.
First up, they dominated banking. And the reason why is pretty brilliant. They controlled the intersection of two major Roman trade routes. So staggering wealth, commerce, and influence. It was constantly flowing directly through their gates every single day. They basically held the purse strings for the entire region.
Second, they absolutely ruled the fashion industry. They were famous for breeding local sheep that produced this highly sought-after, glossy black wool. You have to understand, wearing Laodicean black wool wasn't just about clothing. It was a huge status symbol. It was the exact first-century equivalent of walking around in a custom-tailored designer suit. It told everyone around you, yeah, I've arrived.
And third, they were literal pioneers in biotech. They had a world-renowned medical school that developed a highly effective Phrygian eye powder. This medicine was exported across the entire Roman Empire, bringing them incredible prestige. It gave them literal vision and influence over the health of thousands. So, they had the money, they had the status, and they had the innovation.
Which brings us to Section 2, the fatal flaw, the hidden weakness at the dinner parties. Because right behind this massive I have need of nothing mindset was a fatal geographical flaw. Everyone in the city knew about it, but absolutely nobody wanted to talk about it. They sat on this beautiful plateau, but they had zero local water. None. No springs, no wells. To simply survive, they had to engineer a solution. So they piped in cold, refreshing mountain water from the neighboring city of Colossae, which was a pretty arduous 10 miles away.
At the exact same time, they were also bringing in hot, healing mineral water from the famous springs of Hierapolis. But again, that source was located 6 miles away in the totally opposite direction. But here's the visceral reality of that engineering marvel. By the time those extreme temperatures traveled miles and miles through stone aqueducts to reach the city, the cold wasn't refreshing anymore, and the hot wasn't healing. It arrived lukewarm. Archaeologists have actually dug up these ancient pipes, and they are thick with white calcium buildup. The water tasted so foul, so heavily crusted with mineral deposits, that it was literally used as an emetic to make people vomit.
And that leads us to Section 3, the psychological shift. Because you are lukewarm, I will vomit you out of my mouth.
You see, when the famous letter in Revelation threatens to vomit them out, it wasn't just some random poetic metaphor. It was a visceral, physical reflex that every single Laodicean understood immediately. Why? Because they gagged on their own water supply every single day. And this perfectly illustrates the psychological trap for the rich. Self-sufficiency is the quiet killer of spiritual life. Laodicea didn't consciously wake up and choose to be lukewarm. Lukewarm is just the default temperature of a person who has acquired enough resources and comfort to stop depending on a deeper source.
Let's look at this comparison. Take the persecuted church in Smyrna. They had to be hot with passion just to survive their poverty and oppression. Laodicea, on the other hand, they were just existing on comfortable autopilot. They were essentially Ephesus in a cubicle, running on pure muscle memory, hitting their quarterly targets, but completely losing their heart in the process.
Section 4. The billionaire's blindness. Financially solvent, yet spiritually bankrupt.
So the letter drops a massive hammer in verse 17, exposing the hard truth that you can confidently walk around saying, I am rich, while the actual reality is that you are wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. Just listen to the absolute surgical precision of this diagnosis. To the premier city of banks, he says, you're broke. To the city celebrated for its medical vision, he says, you're blind. And to the city famous for its glossy, high-fashion wool, he says, you're naked. I mean, it strikes perfectly at the very heart of their three proudest achievements. The ultimate irony here is what we might call the 30-shekel glitch. The very city producing medicine to heal everyone else's eyes couldn't even diagnose its own blindness. They were essentially starving to death inside a massive, luxurious mansion simply because they had begun treating all of life as a basic economic asset to be managed rather than a soul to be nourished.
Section 5. Rethinking your reality. Buying from the source, not the market. The letter doesn't just condemn them, though. It tells them they must buy 3 specific things to fix this hollow emptiness. Step 1, they need gold refined by fire, representing proven character tested by adversity rather than unearned bank wealth. Step 2, white garments, symbolizing true righteousness to replace that arrogant reliance on their signature black designer wool. And Step 3, true eye salve, so they can finally strip away the illusion of their success and see reality for exactly what it is.
The powerful, underlying message to the empty rich is actually profoundly simple. Everything you think you have, you actually need from a higher source. It beautifully shows that true grace isn't some terrifying audit of your failures and bankruptcies. It's actually a warm, welcoming invitation to a meal. Which brings us to this incredibly famous quote, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock." We usually picture this verse as Jesus knocking on a wayward sinner's heart, right? But look at the historical context. He's actually knocking on the door of his own church. He has been locked out by the very people who carry his name simply because they thought they were financially and structurally set.
Notice the posture here, too. He isn't forcefully kicking the door down in anger. Rather, he's patiently knocking, waiting to be voluntarily invited in to dine. In the ancient world, sharing a meal was the ultimate, undisputed symbol of intimacy, trust, and deep covenant.
And this brilliantly leads to the core question we really must all ask ourselves as we look at our own lives today. If you've spent your energy building a world where you proudly state you have need of nothing, have you accidentally built a world so insulated that there is absolutely no room left for the only thing that actually satisfies the human soul?
Ultimately, the Laodicea trap isn't just a story condemning the possession of money. It's a profound warning about the dangerous lie that money makes you full. So the takeaway here is pretty clear. Stop drinking the lukewarm water of your own self-sufficient success. The meal you're actually hungry for is waiting, but are you willing to finally open the door?